concept of chevel applies to somebody's lot or inheritance in the sense of land, and land, the land of Israel, which is God's inheritance, is a metaphor for the souls of Israel. The Jewish people are God's plot, the plot containing all the souls, the holy garden. And this is how Reb Nachman explains Rabbi Yeshua's answer to the men of Athens: bring ropes and measure it. Hainu ikar aliyas hakadusha alidei hasimcha ולעושת בצאס ישראל מהגולוס בשמחה כמו שכתוב כי בשמחה תצאו ואז יכלו הקליפות לגמרי וזהו אייסו אשלי היינו על ידיכם ועל כוחכם יספטלו הקליפות כי אתם בעצמכם תביאו את בית ישראל מהגולוס הנקראים אשלי היינו חבר נחלוסי. So Reb Nachman says, we saw earlier that it's through Simcha that the Shekhinah comes out of its exile, that the Holy Shekhinah arises out of the Klipot. And he says, in time to come, when Israel will go out of their exile, instead of joy, as in the verse we quoted earlier, Ki b'simcha tetzeu, you shall go out with Simcha, then the Klipot, the forces of evil, are going to be destroyed completely. And that's why he said to the men of Athens, you bring the ropes. The ropes, as Reb Nachman is going to tell us presently in his text, as I already told you, the ropes, these are the people of Israel, and in the time to come it's the Goyim themselves, the 70 Gentile nations, that against their will are going to bring Israel back to holiness, and against their will all of the Klipot will be nullified. For you yourselves are going to bring the house of Israel from exile, and the house of Israel are called Ashlei, the ropes, namely Chevel Nahalosai, the lot of God's inheritance, as it's written in Isaiah, the Heviu es Achechem Beis Israel, they, the Goyim, will bring your brothers, the house of Israel. Shekol echol ve'echol me'akum yaviu b'yodam es Beis Israel me'agolus. Each and every one of the nations is going to bring by hand the house of Israel out of their exile. And how is this going to come about? Al yidei ribui asimcha sheyihyeh ba'is hazois. Will all come about through the tremendous simcha which will exist in the world at that time. Now this ending of the Maimer, we're literally on the very last lines now, seems to completely overturn everything we may have understood from it before. We may have thought before that the Maimer is simply talking about how we have to daven the morning service and start off with our simcha, with our tzitzis and our tefillin and our stocker, and then get into the korbanos and the tehillim and the brachas of Krishma and the Shemona Esrei, and suddenly Reb Nachman is talking about the Osid Lavoi, the future, which is actually right now. And here we see that the real intent of Reb Nachman's Maimer is to bring us to a state of Geula and to help us to understand what the Geula is about. And it seems to me that we in our day are actually able to begin to see how prophetic Reb Nachman's words are here when he tells us that in time to come it is the forces of unholiness, the Klipot themselves, that will bring the Jews back, and that will of themselves involuntarily be nullified and destroyed. We do indeed in the world today see how for example, radical Islam has got so extremist that it is simply destroying anybody else's ability to take Islam seriously, because they see that the essence of the whole pathway contains this radical destructive element, and this is causing many people in the world to see the emptiness and the falsehood of Islam. And we see that the Khalifa is actually destroying itself. But by going to its own extreme, it rules itself out of court and destroys itself. And we also have seen in many ways how the nations are actually bringing Israel out of Galus, because sometimes it happens in a positive way and sometimes it can happen in a negative way. We see sometimes that the very threat of the Goyim to us is precisely what increases our own Jewish identity. I don't want to get caught up in this discussion right now. I'd just like to bring the Maimer to a close and then invite any questions or comments, and other points that come out of here could be raised later or on other occasions. So in time to come, each one of the nations will bring with their own hands the house of Israel out of their exile, all through the tremendous joy which will be at that time, as it's written, Oz Yomru Vagoyim Igdil Hashem La'asois Im Eile, in Psalm 126, Sharamalos, the nations will say, what a great thing God has done with these people. Hayinu Sumechim, we, the Goyim will say, we were joyous, and now it's them, now it's the Jews' turn has come. Yalidei Simcho Yispatlu HaKlipois, through the very power of the joy, the klipot, the unholy forces will be nullified. Bebechinas Vayimdedaim B'chevel Ashkev Oisam Arza. Rav Nachman now quotes how David HaMelech was symbolically exemplifying the whole destruction of the klipot when he captured the Moabites and made them all lie down. He started measuring who's going to be executed. This is brought in the book of Samuel. And Rav Nachman ends off by explaining Rabbi Yeshua's closing words to the men of Athens: bring the ropes and measure it. Namely, this measure that is going to be accomplished at the end of time is actually going to destroy the klipot. This is a section of the Maimah, the very conclusion, which is quite hard to get even a glimmer of understanding of. It seems to me that what Rav Nachman is saying, he's been talking all the time about the interface between what is measurable and what is beyond measure. The whole Maimah is about the interface between the finite and the infinite. And here he says at the end of days, once you start trying to measure the klipot, he says that itself is going to destroy them. As soon as you begin to define them and see exactly what they truly are and put some measure on them, that itself will be their destruction. With that, I'd like to conclude our learning of this Maimah with gratitude to Hashem that we've been able to study the holy words of Rav Nachman. We must never imagine that we understand what Rav Nachman is saying, but we draw some glimmer of understanding which gives a chizuk, a strengthening to our Avodas Hashem. So if anybody would like to raise any points or ask any questions, please feel free to do so.